What if I told you that a story born from a ritual on a sacred Andean lake, a story of a man literally coated in gold, has arguably cost more lives than many wars? Maybe not directly, but in the relentless, centuries-long hunt it inspired. For ages, the whisper of El Dorado, the Golden One, the Gilded City, the lost empire of gold, has echoed through the darkest jungles and the most ambitious, sometimes ruthless minds. It fueled brutal conquests, desperate expeditions, and an insatiable hunger that just consumed everything in its path. Thousands perished. Cultures were shattered. Vast swathes of a continent were scarred forever. And for what exactly? A city that was never found? An empire that might have only existed in the fevered dreams of conquerors? But here is the really unsettling part. The quest for El Dorado didn't just pack up and go home when the last conquistador hung up his rusted armor. Oh no, it merely changed its disguise. The physical search might have dwindled, sure, but the idea, the potent symbol of El Dorado, it's more alive today than ever before. This isn't just some dusty old history lesson. It's a living story, continually retold, repackaged, and resold in our movies, our books, our art, and even in the flickering landscapes of our digital worlds. The chase for this golden legend has evolved, shifting from deadly jungle expeditions to a powerful cultural force, a pervasive metaphor that shapes our modern media, our entertainment, and perhaps most profoundly, our very understanding of ambition and the elusive nature of that ultimate reward. This isn't just a story about gold, it's a story about us, about our undying fascination with the unattainable, and the long, dark shadows that often accompany our most glittering dreams. To really get the magnetic pull of El Dorado, we need to journey back to its source, and surprisingly, it's not a city paved with gold, but a ritual of profound spiritual meaning. Deep in the highlands of what's now Colombia, the Muisca people had a ceremony to anoint their new chief, or Zipa. This was the true El Dorado, the Golden One. Picture this, a sacred lake, Guatavita, nestled among mist-shrouded peaks, seen as a gateway to the divine. Here, the new leader, stripped bare, would be meticulously covered in sticky resin and then coated entirely in fine gold dust. He'd become a living embodiment of the sun's radiance. Then, he'd be set upon a ceremonial raft, piled high with gold offerings and emeralds, and rowed to the center of the lake. As chants echoed across the water, he would plunge into the depths, washing away the gold as a sacrifice to the gods, while his attendants cast even more precious offerings into the sacred waters. For the Muisca, you see, gold wasn't currency like the Europeans knew it. It was sacred, an offering, a way to connect with the spiritual realm. This was a ritual of power, purification, and connection, not some flashy display of material wealth as the European mind would soon tragically misunderstand it. The arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in the early 16th century, that was a violent collision of worlds and of interpretations. Tales of this gilded man, El Dorado, reached their ears, but they were twisted and magnified by their insatiable hunger for gold. The Spanish, having already seen the riches of the Aztec and Inca empires, were primed to believe in limitless treasures hidden deeper within the continent. So the Muisca ritual, a spiritual act, was tragically misread as proof of a land literally overflowing with gold, a kingdom where this precious metal was as common as dust. And so began the relentless, bloody pursuit. The name El Dorado soon morphed in the European imagination, from a man to a mythical city, then to an entire empire paved with gold, a place of unimaginable opulence hidden deep within the uncharted jungles and mountains of South America. Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada was one of the first to storm into Muisca territory in 1537, looting staggering amounts of gold from their settlements and temples, which only threw more fuel on the legend's fire. His actions and those of others like Sebastian de Belalcázar and Nicolaus Federman, who all converged on Muisca lands, were marked by sickening brutality, the wiping out of indigenous populations through violence and disease, and the systematic destruction of entire cultures. The quest became an obsession, a fever that gripped explorers, adventurers, and even monarchs. Expeditions led by figures like Gonzalo Pizarro, Francisco de Orellana, who, ironically, made the first European navigation of the Amazon River while looking for El Dorado, and Pedro de Ursua plunged into the unknown. They faced starvation, disease, hostile indigenous tribes, and the absolutely unforgiving terrain of the Amazon basin and the Andes. Sir Walter Raleigh, the famous English courtier and explorer, became utterly fixated on finding El Dorado, convinced it lay in the Guianas. He led expeditions, wrote wildly exaggerated accounts that further popularized the myth back in Europe, and ultimately paid for his obsession with his life. These expeditions were, almost without exception, catastrophic failures. Countless lives were lost. European explorers, yes, but far, far more numerous were the indigenous people they enslaved, tortured, or killed in their hunt for a phantom. The search for El Dorado became a glaring, horrifying example of colonial greed, profound cultural misunderstanding, and the devastating human and environmental cost of unchecked ambition. The gold they sought was often spiritual, ceremonial, or simply wasn't there in the earth-shattering quantities they dreamed of. Lake Guatavita itself became a prime target. Numerous attempts were made to drain it, from colonial times right up to the early 20th century, all in hopes of recovering supposed sunken treasures. While some artifacts were indeed found, including the famous Muisca raft, a small golden depiction of the ceremony, discovered in a cave in 1969, and now a prized exhibit in Bogotá's Gold Museum, the vast hoards of gold remained elusive. This raft, though, stands as a tangible link to the true origins of the legend, a poignant reminder of the spiritual reality that got twisted into a myth of material wealth. The historical search for El Dorado, spanning centuries, yielded precious little of the fantasized Golden Empire. Instead, it left a legacy of destruction, exploitation, and a deep, tragic misunderstanding of the cultures it steamrolled. And yet, the failure to find the physical city did absolutely nothing to diminish the power of its story. In fact, the elusiveness of El Dorado, its very unattainability, became central to its enduring mystique. It transitioned from a spot on a map to a potent symbol, a legend that would keep evolving and finding new ways to express itself in the centuries to come. The physical hunt died down, but the chase for what El Dorado represented, ultimate wealth, the ultimate prize, the answer to all desires, was only just beginning its long, strange journey through human culture. So the gold was never truly found, not in the piles the conquistadors had salivated over. No city with streets of pure gold or temples crusted with emeralds ever shimmered into view out of the jungle mists. But the story of El Dorado? Now, that was where the real treasure lay. It struck a vein of pure, unadulterated narrative gold, a myth so potent it would rise above its bloody origins and embed itself deep within our collective imagination. The physical quest, marked by so much suffering and so much futility, gradually faded into history books. But the legend itself? It underwent a remarkable metamorphosis. It shed its skin of jungle rot and colonial despair to be reborn, again and again, in the vibrant landscapes of modern culture. El Dorado stopped being just a lost city. It became a powerful, multifaceted symbol, a kind of narrative blueprint for adventure, ambition, and the eternal, often perilous, human pursuit of the ultimate prize. This transformation ensured its survival, allowing it to be endlessly reinterpreted and rediscovered by new generations, not in the treacherous mountains of South America, but in the captivating worlds of film, literature, digital entertainment, and as a pervasive metaphor in our everyday language. The silver screen, with its incredible power to conjure worlds and ignite imaginations, naturally became a perfect new home for the resurrected legend of El Dorado. Filmmakers, drawn to its inherent drama, exotic settings, and themes of adventure and obsession, have repeatedly turned to the myth for inspiration. One of the most direct and widely recognized cinematic takes is DreamWorks Animation's The Road to El Dorado, 2000. This animated feature, while definitely taking some big comedic liberties, introduces the legend to a younger crowd, portraying El Dorado as a hidden city of immense wealth stumbled upon by two charming Spanish con artists. Though it's a lighthearted adventure, it taps into the core elements of the myth. the allure of a lost golden city, the dangerous journey, and the inevitable clash of cultures. The film cleverly plays with the expectations of the legend, ultimately emphasizing themes of friendship and the idea that true wealth isn't always, well, gold. But the cinematic influence of El Dorado stretches far beyond just direct adaptations. Its spirit pretty much infuses the entire adventure genre. Think of the swashbuckling exploits of Indiana Jones. Sure, Dr. Jones might be chasing the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail, but the underlying DNA of his quests, the search for a legendary artifact of immense power or value, hidden in some remote and dangerous spot, guarded by ancient secrets and pursued by ruthless bad guys, owes a pretty hefty debt to the El Dorado narrative framework. Those booby-trapped temples, the cryptic maps, the race against time, these tropes are all echoes of that centuries-old pursuit of a golden dream. Then there's Werner Herzog's critically acclaimed 1972 film, Aguirre, The Wrath of God. This offers a much darker, more haunting cinematic exploration of the El Dorado obsession. Starring Klaus Kinski in a truly mesmerizing performance, the film dramatizes the doomed 16th century expedition led by Lope de Aguirre down the Amazon River in search of this mythical city. Herzog doesn't show us a glittering El Dorado. Instead, he masterfully depicts the descent into madness, paranoia, and brutal violence, all fueled by greed and the unrelenting harshness of the jungle. Aguirre's El Dorado is an internal inferno, a destructive illusion that consumes everyone who pursues it. The film is a stark, unforgettable commentary on the folly of colonial ambition and the destructive nature of obsession, capturing the grim reality that often lay behind those historical expeditions. The film's iconic imagery, particularly that opening scene of conquistadors snaking down a ridiculously steep Andean path, has become a powerful visual shorthand for the futile and perilous search for an unattainable prize. Other films have also touched upon the legend, sometimes directly, sometimes more thematically. The Spanish film Gold, 2017, original title Oro, depicts the raw hardships and moral compromises of a 16th century Spanish expedition hunting for El Dorado. Even big franchises like Pirates of the Caribbean carry whiffs of the El Dorado spirit, with their cursed treasures and that insatiable lust for gold, reflecting the broader theme of greed and its nasty consequences. More recently, family flicks like Dora and the Lost City of Gold, 2019, and even Paddington in Peru, 2024, introduce the concept of a hidden, treasure-filled city to new generations, though often under different names like Parapata. The core idea of a South American lost city of riches clearly draws from the El Dorado wellspring. This cinematic fascination with El Dorado isn't just about adventure for adventure's sake, it's about exploring really profound human desires and fears. The jungle, a recurring backdrop, becomes a symbolic space, a labyrinth where explorers confront not only external dangers but also their own inner demons, their greed, their ambition, their vulnerability. The promise of gold, so tantalizing and so elusive, serves as a perfect MacGuffin, driving plots and revealing character in fascinating ways. Whether portrayed as a utopian paradise, a source of corrupting power, or a tragic illusion, El Dorado on screen consistently reflects our enduring fascination with the unknown, the allure of unimaginable wealth, and the often destructive consequences of chasing phantoms. It reminds us that some of the most compelling stories aren't about finding the treasure, but about the journey itself and what it reveals about those who dare to take it. The shadowy jungles and glittering temples of cinematic El Dorados are, in essence, reflections of our own complex desires and the timeless question of what we're truly willing to sacrifice in pursuit of our dreams. Long before El Dorado flickered onto cinema screens, its legend was being intricately woven into the fabric of literature. It provided incredibly fertile ground for writers to explore themes of ambition, disillusionment, and the very nature of human desire. The earliest literary accounts, often penned by the explorers themselves, were a heady mix of fact, hearsay, and outright embellishment, usually designed to attract more investment and colonists. Sir Walter Raleigh's The Discovery of the Large, Rich, and Beautiful Empire of Guyana, with a relation of the great and golden city of Manoa, which the Spaniards call El Dorado, published way back in 1596, is a classic example. While Raleigh genuinely seemed to believe in this golden city, his descriptions were undoubtedly gilded to capture the imagination of Queen Elizabeth I and the English public, further cementing the myth in European consciousness. These early narratives, packed with tales of unimaginable riches and exotic dangers, laid the groundwork for centuries of literary El Dorados. One of the most influential early literary treatments came from, of all people, the master of satire, Voltaire. In his 1759 novel Candide, or Optimism, the protagonist and his companion Cacambo literally stumble upon El Dorado. Voltaire's El Dorado is a utopian society, a place of immense wealth where gold and jewels are just common street pebbles, and where the inhabitants live in perfect harmony, free from greed, religious arguments, and legal squabbles. Sounds great, right? Well, despite its perfection, Candide and Cacambo choose to leave, burdened with riches they can barely carry, because they find its flawless contentment ultimately unsatisfying. Voltaire uses El Dorado not to celebrate wealth, but as a sharp satirical tool to critique the follies and injustices of the European world and to question the very nature of happiness and the pursuit of ideals. His El Dorado is a paradise, but one that ironically highlights the restlessness and inherent dissatisfaction bubbling within human nature. Then you have Edgar Allan Poe, a writer forever captivated by the melancholic and the mysterious. He offered a much more somber and symbolic interpretation in his 1849 poem, El Dorado. The poem tells of a gallant knight who spends his entire life searching for this mythical land of gold. As he grows old and weary, his search proving fruitless, he encounters a pilgrim shadow. When the knight desperately asks where El Dorado can be found, the shadow replies, "Ride, boldly ride, if you seek for El Dorado," pointing towards the Valley of the Shadow. Poe's El Dorado isn't a place of material riches at all, but a metaphor for an idealized goal, perhaps truth, beauty, or spiritual fulfillment, that remains forever out of reach in our mortal world. The poem, written during the California Gold Rush, subtly critiques that frantic pursuit of earthly riches, suggesting that true El Dorados might only be found in some spiritual realm, or perhaps are defined by the nobility of the quest itself, even in the face of inevitable failure and death. Poe's use of the word shadow cleverly evolves through the poem, from a literal shadow to despair, and finally to a ghostly guide, underscoring the elusive and perhaps illusory nature of the ultimate prize. The allure of El Dorado kept echoing through adventure literature in the 19th and 20th centuries. Authors like H. Rider Haggard, with tales like King Solomon's Mines, though set in Africa, tapped into that same vein of lost civilizations and hidden treasures that El Dorado epitomized. The archetype of the jungle adventure, the search for a lost city, became a staple of pulp fiction and boys' adventure stories, often perpetuating colonial narratives but always underscoring that magnetic pull of the unknown and the promise of discovery. In more contemporary literature, El Dorado often pops up metaphorically, representing any ultimate, often elusive goal. It might be the El Dorado of a scientific breakthrough, artistic achievement, or even financial success in the cutthroat world of business. Clive Cussler's adventure novel, Inca Gold, directly involves a search for lost Incan treasure that could lead to El Dorado, showing the legend's continued appeal in modern thriller and adventure genres. The very phrase, searching for El Dorado, has seeped into our language to describe any ambitious, perhaps even wildly optimistic, quest for something that might not even exist or is incredibly difficult to achieve. Moreover, modern scholarship and literature often critically re-examine the El Dorado legend. They use it to critique colonialism, the destructive consequences of greed, and the environmental and cultural devastation caused by that relentless pursuit of wealth. These narratives move beyond just romanticizing the quest to expose the suffering and exploitation that lay beneath the glittering myth. They strive to give voice to indigenous perspectives, often silenced in earlier accounts, and highlight the tragic irony of a spiritual ritual being twisted into a justification for conquest and plunder. From the exaggerated chronicles of conquistadors to Voltaire's utopia, Poe's haunting allegory, and modern adventure tales, El Dorado in literature has proven to be a remarkably versatile and enduring theme. It serves as a mirror, reflecting humanity's highest aspirations and its darkest impulses, our capacity for great adventure and profound cruelty, our yearning for paradise and our tendency to destroy it in our search. The literary El Dorado is a labyrinth of meaning, a place where the gleam of gold is often overshadowed by the shadows of human nature, reminding us that the most valuable discoveries are sometimes not the treasures we seek, but the truths we uncover about ourselves along the way. The quest for El Dorado, with its built-in themes of exploration, discovery, danger, and immense reward, has found a uniquely interactive and immersive home in the world of video games. Think about it. Digital jungles, coded ruins, and pixelated treasures have become the new frontiers for modern-day adventurers, allowing players to step right into the boots of explorers and chase their own versions of this golden legend. The way El Dorado has transitioned into this medium is a real testament to the myth's adaptability and its undiminished power to captivate and motivate. Undoubtedly, one of the most prominent video game franchises to draw heavily from the El Dorado mythos is Naughty Dog's Uncharted series, particularly its first hit, Uncharted: Drake's Fortune, 2007. The game's hero, Nathan Drake, a charismatic treasure hunter who claims to be a descendant of Sir Francis Drake, embarks on a thrilling quest to find the lost treasure of El Dorado, following a trail of clues supposedly left by his famous ancestor. The game masterfully blends historical legend with fictional adventure, taking players through lush South American jungles, crumbling ancient structures, and plenty of perilous encounters. In Uncharted, El Dorado isn't a city of gold, but a massive golden sarcophagus, which, in a classic twist, turns out to be cursed, unleashing monstrous guardians upon anyone who disturbs it. This interpretation cleverly plays on the theme of treasure being both alluring and incredibly dangerous, a common motif in El Dorado stories. The game's success really lies in its ability to make the player feel like an adventurer, solving puzzles, deciphering ancient texts, and engaging in daring gunfights and platforming sequences, all in pursuit of that ultimate legendary prize. It perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the El Dorado quest, the thrill of the chase, the mystery of the unknown, and the promise of untold riches. And let's not forget the Tomb Raider franchise, starring the iconic Lara Croft. It similarly taps into that deep-seated allure of lost civilizations and ancient treasures, often echoing El Dorado's themes. While Lara's adventures take her to all sorts of mythical locations worldwide, several installments feature explorations of South American ruins and quests for powerful artifacts that definitely mirror the El Dorado legend's core elements. Games like Shadow of the Tomb Raider delve deep into Mesoamerican and South American mythologies, presenting players with hidden cities, deadly traps, and moral quandaries about disturbing ancient sites and unleashing forgotten powers. The player as Lara becomes a kind of modern conquistador, albeit often with a more archaeological, though still pretty destructive, bent, navigating treacherous environments and battling shadowy organizations also after these powerful relics. Even earlier games laid some of the groundwork. Titles like Pitfall, back in the 1980s, with its simple yet incredibly addictive gameplay of navigating a jungle, avoiding dangers, and collecting treasures, captured a rudimentary essence of the El Dorado adventure. While not explicitly named, the promise of gold and the perilous journey through an exotic, untamed wilderness resonated with the foundational elements of the legend. Beyond these direct action-adventure titles, the concept of El Dorado influences game design in more subtle ways. The idea of a final boss guarding immense treasure, the loot drop mechanic in role-playing games, promising rare and valuable items, or even the very structure of many quest-based games that involve following a series of clues to an ultimate reward, they all share a conceptual lineage with the pursuit of El Dorado. That gold rush mentality, the drive to explore every corner of a digital map in search of hidden secrets or powerful upgrades, mirrors the historical obsession that drove explorers into uncharted territories. Strategy games, too, sometimes get in on the theme. Games focusing on colonization or empire building might feature New World scenarios where players can send expeditions in search of rumored cities of gold, reflecting the historical motivations of European powers. Even city-building or simulation games can tap into the El Dorado dream, the quest to build the perfect, most prosperous city, a kind of digital utopia. Board games have also embraced the legend. The Quest for El Dorado, designed by Reiner Knizia, is a popular deck-building racing game where players lead expeditions through the South American jungle to be the first to reach the lost city. Players recruit experts, gather equipment, and strategically navigate different types of terrain, simulating the challenges and choices involved in such a risky journey. The game's appeal lies in its clever blend of strategy and the thrill of the race, capturing that competitive spirit of the historical El Dorado expeditions. So, what makes El Dorado so compelling in the digital realm? It's that inherent interactivity. Players are no longer just passive observers of the legend. They are active participants in the chase. They make the choices, they overcome the obstacles, and sometimes they reap the rewards or face the consequences. Video games offer a powerful fantasy of discovery and empowerment, allowing players to experience the allure of the unknown and the thrill of unearthing secrets that have remained hidden for centuries. The digital El Dorados may be crafted from pixels and code, but the human desire they tap into, that yearning for adventure, for riches, for the ultimate discovery, is as real and as potent as the historical obsession that launched 1,000 ships and cost countless lives. In these virtual jungles, the legend continues to evolve, offering endless opportunities to chase the golden dream, one quest, one level, one pixelated treasure at a time. Beyond the movies, books, and games, perhaps the most profound and widespread impact of El Dorado on modern culture is its incredible symbolic power. The name itself, El Dorado, has journeyed far beyond its historical and geographical roots to become a deeply ingrained metaphor, a kind of cultural shorthand for any ultimate, alluring, yet often maddeningly elusive prize. It's a concept that resonates across all sorts of human activities, shaping our language and reflecting our deepest hopes and anxieties about success, ambition, and what value even means. In everyday conversation, searching for El Dorado pretty much signifies any tough or obsessive quest for an unattainable goal, a holy grail that promises immense reward but might just turn out to be a mirage. This could be the scientist's lifelong hunt for a groundbreaking discovery, the artist's struggle for perfect expression, or the entrepreneur's relentless chase for the next billion-dollar idea. The El Dorado in these contexts isn't a city of gold, but an ideal, a peak of achievement that drives people forward, sometimes to greatness, other times, frankly, to ruin. The metaphor carries with it that inherent tension of the original legend, the intoxicating promise of reward versus the very high chance of failure, and the enormous sacrifices made along the way. The legend also acts as a potent symbol for ambition itself. The conquistadors, driven by a powerful cocktail of greed, glory, and religious fervor, represent an extreme form of ambition, don't they? Their willingness to endure unimaginable hardships and commit unspeakable atrocities in pursuit of their golden dream provides a stark historical case study. In modern times, while the methods might be less overtly brutal, we hope, the El Dorado mindset can still be seen in the relentless pursuit of wealth and status in corporate culture, the high-stakes world of finance, or the fiercely competitive arenas of sports and entertainment. The phrase can evoke that intoxicating allure of making it big, achieving a level of success that seems to promise an end to all struggles, a kind of golden paradise. But just as the historical El Dorado proved to be an illusion, these modern pursuits often come with hidden costs: burnout, compromised ethics, broken relationships, and the gnawing realization that the gold achieved might not bring the happiness or fulfillment you thought it would. El Dorado has also become a symbol of our fascination with the unknown and the human hunger for mystery. The whole idea of a lost city, a hidden world teeming with secrets and treasures, taps into a primal desire for exploration and discovery. This aspect of the legend fuels conspiracy theories, inspires adventurers to seek out remote and uncharted territories, and even informs our interest in space exploration, the search for new El Dorados beyond our own world. It speaks to a fundamental human curiosity, a need to believe that there's something more, something wonderful, waiting to be found just beyond the horizon of what we currently know. And on a more critical note, especially today, El Dorado is increasingly used as a metaphor to critique consumerism, resource extraction, and the often destructive impact of global capitalism. The historical quest for gold, which led to the exploitation of indigenous peoples and the devastation of natural environments, finds chilling parallels in modern industries that strip resources and the relentless pursuit of profit, often at the expense of ecological balance and social justice. In this light, El Dorado represents the false promise of endless material growth, a seductive illusion that masks a system of exploitation and unsustainable practices. Contemporary artists and writers often flip the legend on its head to highlight these issues, reframing the treasure not as gold, but as the preservation of nature, cultural heritage, or human dignity, the very things threatened by modern gold rushes. For Colombia, the birthplace of the Muisca ritual, El Dorado holds a complex and deeply personal significance. It's a vital part of the national identity and cultural heritage, a reminder of its rich pre-Columbian past. Sites like Lake Guatavita are still tourist attractions, and the Gold Museum in Bogotá proudly displays the intricate gold artifacts of the Muisca and other indigenous cultures, reclaiming these objects not as mere treasure, but as testament to sophisticated civilizations and profound spiritual beliefs. Here, the legend isn't just about European obsession, it's about indigenous history and resilience. The symbolic power of El Dorado is also pretty obvious in branding and marketing. The name itself just evokes luxury, exclusivity, and the promise of something extraordinary. From casinos and resorts to product names and company mottos, El Dorado is slapped onto things to create an aura of opulence and desirability. This commercial use, while often superficial, really demonstrates the enduring potency of the myth's association with ultimate value and aspiration. Ultimately, El Dorado as a metaphor speaks volumes about the enduring human condition, our capacity for dreaming, our relentless striving, our vulnerability to illusion, and our incredibly complex relationship with the whole concept of wealth. It reminds us that the most potent gold is often not a material substance at all, but the stories we tell ourselves, the dreams we chase, and the ideals we strive for. Whether seen as a symbol of hope, folly, ambition, or exploitation, El Dorado continues to shape our understanding of the world and our place within it. The legend's true power lies not in the gold that was never found, but in the enduring questions it forces us to confront about what we truly value and what price we're willing to pay to achieve our own golden one. The story of El Dorado is like a vast, winding river with countless tributaries, isn't it? We've navigated some of its main currents, from ancient rituals to modern blockbusters, but there's always more to explore, always more to unearth. So what does El Dorado mean to you? Is it a historical tragedy, a thrilling adventure, or a potent symbol of our modern ambitions? Maybe you've stumbled across the legend in a book, a film, or a game that we haven't even mentioned. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your own El Dorado discoveries in the comments below. What other modern cultural echoes of this enduring legend have you noticed? And if you found this journey through the mists of history and myth as fascinating as we did, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more investigations into the stories that shape our world. Clicking that notification bell means you won't miss our next expedition into the intriguing and the unexplained. Your engagement truly helps us continue to explore these complex narratives and bring them to light. What legend should we set our sights on next? Let us know. Centuries have drifted by since the last Spanish galleons rotted in forgotten harbors, their holds conspicuously empty of El Dorado's promised gold. The jungles have long since reclaimed the faint trails of countless ill-fated expeditions. And yet, the phantom of El Dorado refuses to fade into mere history. Its echo persists, not as a whisper of some lost city, but as a resonant frequency deep within our collective psyche. Why, after all the bloodshed, all the disappointment, all the exposure of the myth's hollow core, do we still chase this golden phantom? What's the real truth behind its tenacious grip on our imagination, and how does it continue to shape our understanding of ambition here in the 21st century? The answer perhaps lies not in the allure of gold itself, but in what gold has always represented: value, rarity, incorruptibility, and by extension, power, immortality, and even transcendence. One of the most powerful reasons for its endurance? It directly taps into that universal human desire for more. The dream of a sudden, transformative discovery that will elevate us beyond the mundane, solve all our problems, and deliver ultimate happiness. That's a potent one. In an age of instant lottery wins and viral fame, the El Dorado promise of a shortcut to immense fortune and status feels remarkably contemporary, doesn't it? It speaks to a deep-seated hope that somewhere, just beyond our reach, lies a solution, a treasure, a perfect state of being that will fulfill all our longings. Furthermore, the story of El Dorado is, at its heart, a quintessential adventure narrative. The perilous journey, the exotic and dangerous setting, the cryptic clues, the promise of immense reward. These are the fundamental building blocks of compelling storytelling that have thrilled audiences for millennia. In our increasingly mapped out and regulated world, the idea of an uncharted territory, a lost secret just waiting to be unearthed, holds a powerful romantic appeal. Our movies, books, and video games continually serve us new iterations of this quest, allowing us to vicariously experience the thrill of the chase without the real-world dangers and moral compromises. We chase digital El Dorados in Uncharted, or fantasize about uncovering lost civilizations, because, on some level, we yearn for that sense of discovery, that feeling of being the first to behold a hidden wonder. However, the legend's endurance isn't solely about romantic escapism. It also serves as a profound, if often unsettling, commentary on ambition. El Dorado, in its historical context, represents ambition in its most rapacious and destructive form. The conquistadors were driven by an ambition so all-consuming it justified unimaginable cruelty and often led to their own self-destruction. This darker side of the myth continues to resonate. We see echoes of it in the relentless pursuit of profit without regard for ethical or environmental consequences, in the growth-at-all-costs mentality that can define corporate cultures, or even in the personal ambition that prioritizes success above all else, leading to burnout and disillusionment. El Dorado, in this light, is a cautionary tale about the nature of desire and the potential for our ambitions to become nothing more than gilded cages. The very elusiveness of El Dorado is also absolutely central to its enduring power. Because it was never definitively found, it can be anything and everything we want it to be. It remains a potent symbol of the unattainable, the ultimate what if. This ambiguity allows it to be continually reinterpreted. Is it a paradise lost? A treasure just waiting to be claimed? A dangerous illusion? A metaphor for spiritual enlightenment? The answer changes with the seeker. This inherent mystery is far more compelling than a clearly defined, locatable place could ever be. It's the chase, not necessarily the capture, that keeps the legend alive. In modern Colombia, El Dorado is being actively reclaimed and recontextualized. It's increasingly seen not just as a myth born of European greed, but as a vital part of indigenous heritage, a testament to sophisticated cultures that had a profoundly different understanding of wealth and the sacred. That Muisca raft in the Gold Museum isn't just a pretty golden artifact. It's a symbol of a worldview where value was tied to spiritual practice, not just material accumulation. This reframing adds another rich layer to the legend's complexity and its relevance today, prompting a critical reflection on colonial narratives and the crucial importance of cultural preservation. Ultimately, El Dorado endures because it speaks to fundamental aspects of the human condition: our capacity for awe and wonder, our relentless drive to explore and achieve, our susceptibility to grand illusions, and our complex, often contradictory, relationship with the very idea of treasure. It reminds us that true value is often not found in glittering objects, but in knowledge, experience, human connection, or the preservation of the world around us. The golden phantom of El Dorado continues to be chased because, in many ways, it represents the eternal human quest for meaning, for purpose, for something beyond the ordinary. The physical city of gold may have been a fiction, but the desires it ignited and the stories it continues to inspire are profoundly real. The legend's enduring echo is a testament to the power of myth to shape not only our understanding of the past, but also our navigation of the present and our dreams for the future. We are all, in one way or another, on a quest for our own El Dorado, seeking that which we believe will make our lives richer, fuller, and more meaningful. The true wisdom of the legend may lie in questioning what that gold truly is, and what kind of journey we are willing to undertake to find it. The chase for El Dorado, a pursuit that kicked off with a gilded man on a sacred lake and spiraled into centuries of relentless, often brutal searching, has proven itself to be every bit as elusive and multifaceted as the legend itself. From the blood-soaked jungles of 16th century South America to the silver screens of Hollywood, the pages of enduring literature, and the interactive landscapes of our digital age, El Dorado has shown an extraordinary knack for reinvention. It's so much more than just an archaic myth of a lost city of gold. It's a living narrative, a cultural touchstone that continues to reflect and shape our understanding of ambition, the allure of the unknown, and the very nature of what we consider wealth. We've journeyed through how an initial, profound misinterpretation of a Muisca spiritual ritual ignited a firestorm of colonial greed, leading to absolutely devastating consequences for indigenous populations and the environment. Yet, from these tragic beginnings, the idea of El Dorado blossomed, transforming into an incredibly powerful symbol. In our modern culture, it serves as that go-to metaphor for the unattainable quest, the ultimate prize that drives human endeavor, sometimes to incredible new heights of achievement, other times straight into folly and destruction. We see its reflection in the daring adventures of our cinematic heroes, the profound allegories of poets and novelists, and the immersive quests of video game protagonists. The enduring power of El Dorado really lies in its ambiguity and its profound connection to core human desires. It speaks to our innate curiosity, our deep-seated yearning for discovery, and our incredibly complex relationship with the concept of value. Is it all about material riches, or is the true gold something far less tangible? Knowledge, spiritual fulfillment, or maybe just the thrill of the journey itself? The legend forces us to confront these questions, to really examine our own ambitions and what we deem truly worth pursuing. Today, as we grapple with the legacies of colonialism and the urgent need for more sustainable and equitable ways of living, the El Dorado myth is undergoing yet another transformation. There's a growing recognition of indigenous perspectives, a reclaiming of the narrative to highlight cultural heritage over colonial greed, and a serious reevaluation of what true wealth even means. Perhaps the ultimate El Dorado isn't some hidden place piled high with gold, but a state of understanding, an appreciation for the real treasures of our world, our diverse cultures, our precious natural environment, and the enduring human spirit of inquiry, hopefully tempered with wisdom and respect. The golden legend of El Dorado, therefore, isn't just some story stuck in the past. It's a continuous investigation into the human heart, a chase that adapts with each generation, forever beckoning us to explore not just the hidden corners of the world, but the hidden landscapes of our own desires. The quest, in its many, many forms, continues,